Hello, 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 everyone. Thank you guys for joining. I appreciate you guys. Welcome to CodeBlaque. So, today I wanted to come before you guys and talk about this, as you can already see, this OWN network show that has been coming on OWN and pretty much the topic at hand. For those of you who do not know, Oprah Winfrey owns a network called OWN. And on that network, some of the series that they've been doing recently are the ones that, basically get a bunch of black women together and have a discussion about different topics and, different things that go on within the black community, among black women, black men, so on and so forth. But more so among black women and some of the issues that we face. And so I wanted to come before you guys because they just put out their newest episode. And as you guys can probably already see from the title, it's talking about whether or not black women should date outside of their race. And so I'm going to play snippets of the video. I cannot play the entire video for obvious reasons. I do not want my channel to get flagged because it is not my content. It's the Oprah Winfrey Network content. So I'm going to play snippets. I'm not going to play everything through. I'll go from there with the commentary. So let's go to the video here.
Dated outside of your race. How many of you would be willing to date outside of your race? How many of you are not willing to date outside of your race? Okay. All right. Well,
so as you guys just heard, he asked the ladies within the room, how many have dated outside of your race? How many are willing to date outside of their race, and how many are not willing to date outside of their race? And as you can see, the hands within the room that was raised, right? And so that's pretty much the conversation. Now, I want to start off with this. Like, I have posed this question before on several times before. And if any one of you guys follow me on my Facebook channel or even my Twitter, mostly Facebook and Twitter is where I kind of do a lot of content other than YouTube. I've always posed the question, why is it that black women as a collective, why do we have to have these panel discussions about dating outside of our race? Why is it that we are the only group where these questions are asked? And I pose that question because I have never, and you guys, if you have seen this yourself, please direct me to where you've seen this before. But I personally, I've never seen, a panel discussion where white women or Asian women or Latino or Arabic women get together and talk about what the benefits are of dating outside of their race. They've never done that. And I know there may be some people who may say, oh, well, Nikhil, the reason why it's important for black women to have these discussions is because, some people may say there's not enough good black men. Or, we shouldn't limit ourselves to just strictly to only black men. Or we have, issues as a community, relationship issues, and because of those issues, us as a collective whole, us meaning black women as a collective whole, we have it a lot harder to find, partners and mates and husbands and things like that. Yes, some people may pose those questions, but even still, again, when you look in other groups of women, they may not have the same exact issues publicly that we have, but they have issues too. They absolutely do, especially, those who are born and raised and grow up right here in America. Just being an American woman, they have issues too. It's just that, a lot of times their issues don't make national news. They're not public. And so, if, believe me, if there are issues, it's just that when it's us, it's put on display because, I guess it's entertaining. Now, I am not going to negate that there are issues that we have within our community relationship issues. I'm not going to negate that because we absolutely do. However, I just wanted to pose that question because I've never seen any other group of women talk about whether or not they should date outside their race. And I also want to add that this is an international discussion because remember, this is being done on the Oprah Winfrey platform, and we all know that is an international platform. So this particular discussion, these questions are asked internationally. So again, I pose the question: where have you ever seen white women, Asian women, Arab, Latino, or whatever other kind of woman get together on an international scale, right, and have a discussion about why they should date other men other than their own? And if you guys have seen that, if you guys know anything about that, please put that in the comment section because I would like to check it out. All right. And this, I'm not saying, and I'm saying on a collective whole, I'm not saying where you may have a few girlfriends who are, non-black and you guys get together and they tell you about how they love black men. No, I'm talking about on as a collective whole, as a group, women in other races getting together, having these same conversations and being asked these same questions. That's exactly what I'm talking about. So, I want to go on because as you guys can see, there are 3 panelists that they have here. And one of them, her name is Winnie Harlow. Winnie Harlow is a model. She actually is listed as a Canadian model. So I'm assuming she grew up in Canada. And she kind of came on the scene through America's Next Top Model. And I don't know the season, but that's kind of how she came on. She busted on the American scene. And, kind of became well known. Among other things, she's dated high profile guys and celebrities and things like that. But she's one of the panelists. So they asked her, and she got to speak on the topic. One of the other panelists is Angelica Ross. Now, Angelica Ross is a transgender. She trans from man to woman. And so I point that out because that is very important because she's also going to point that out as well because she speaks about the LGBT community and, the issues that she's had in the past with dating outside of her race. So I want to point that out. And then the third panelist is a lady named April Parker Jones, and she is an actress. And I actually liked her the most, and you guys will probably see why. And and when I say liked her the most, I mean like I just liked her answer the most. Now, does that mean she's right or wrong? Absolutely not. People are entitled to their opinion, but I can connect with her a lot better, her answer, than I did the other 2. Get the video back on the screen. Okay. So let's move on to what Winnie said. And again, I can't play the entire of what she said because I don't want my videos to get flagged. Okay, because the content does not belong to me.
Williams, Eve, Rihanna have all found love across the racial divide. More and more black women, of course, seem to be willing to follow in their footsteps. Winnie Harlow, should black women date outside their race?
Black women and all women should date whoever they want to date. I was raised in a home by a single black woman. My mom and my father, my whole life, have had an amazing relationship. They raised me separately, but cordially. In this time of my mom being single, I've obviously met a lot of her boyfriends, and they were multiracial. She dated black guys, she dated white guys. So I think for me, it was something that I was taught that, all people are equal and every.
Okay, so I'm going to stop it there. I think it's very important that we pay attention to what she just said. And she says a little bit more, but again, I can't play the whole thing. But there were 3 things that stood out from what she stated. And one of those things was she talked about her environment, how she was raised. Her mother dated outside of her race, and so she was able to see her mother do that. And she even mentioned that it was taught to her. And so that speaks a lot about her environment, right? Because she was raised in that environment where, dating outside of your race, that's what you do. And then she also goes on, you guys didn't see this part, but she goes on to talk about how education, like people who, people must be educated to date outside of race. Meaning, if you know more about other cultures of people, you feel more comfortable to date outside of your race. So she kind of talks about that. And then the third point that she talks about was, I think it was just those two. It was just those two. It was just those two. So those were the two things that kind of stood out to me that she kind of hit on. And I will post the link to this snippet in the discussion session, section, so you guys can see the entire video for yourself. But I thought it was very interesting because she obviously was raised in that environment. So for her, that's just kind of that's just how things are. The only problem that I have is that I feel like when people talk about dating interracially, they don't hit on, the issues that come up when we talk about racism, right? So when you're dating a non-black person, whether it's a man or a woman, and you guys are watching the news and every other week you see black people getting shot down, killed, black children, women, they don't mention those conversations. They don't mention how maybe they could bump heads because they see things differently, or how their partner may not really understand it. And so for me, on such a heavy issue such as race and racism, especially right now with, every other day we watching black people get literally, it's like a new age hanging, right? We're watching this all the time. And, if you can't come home and talk to your partner about what you may be feeling about that, and then them kind of really understand that, or really understand where you're coming from, to me, that would pose a problem. But I just have an issue when people like skate over that or don't acknowledge that. That's my problem. Because we know that dating outside of your race is not peachy cream, and we do know the issues of race and racism come up as conversation pieces and topics. But she didn't mention that. So that's something that I would like. And again, I didn't watch the entire clip it. I just didn't have the time to. But this little snippet I thought to me, stood out the most because this was the actual beginning. But moving on to the next panelist. So let's move on to. Give me a second. Again, I can't play the entire video, but you guys know why.
Men versus women, whether it be whatever it is, all these things that is about the education.
Angelica, how do you think about interracial dating?
I agree that it's about the education, because I actually was engaged to be married to a white man, to an Italian man, and we were together for 8 years. And I have not been in a relationship since. I don't know if I would actually date outside my race again. There is only really one time that I'm against interracial dating, and that is when you're not allowed to bring your full self to the relationship. Because I was in the relationship where I did not challenge my white partner on his anti-blackness. And instead, I internalized the way he looked at the black community too. And so we both were in our gated community house thinking, this is what, needs to happen, and blah, blah.
So I want to stop it there and kind of get some commentary about what Angelica stated. So there were 3 things she hit on when she, gave her statement on dating outside, black women dating outside of their race. One was the education. So she agreed with Winnie Harlow about, people being educated. The other was the experiences that she's had. So she's had some bad experiences dating outside of her race. And that was a reason as to why she don't know if she would ever date outside of her race. And then the third one was problems with racism within the LGBT community. And I have to say that because again, she is a transgender woman, and so that's the community in which she's in. And And so I just kind of think it's important to point that out. Now, I think her answer was profound in that she was very honest about the racism that goes on within the LGBT community. And to me, you have to respect someone who's honest enough to call things out like that. Because again, when you're dating outside of your race, race comes up. It comes up, and it's gonna come up over and over and over again. It's always gonna come up, especially if you have children with that person. I mean, you're merging families. I mean, it's gonna always come up. And I think for Angelica, I just thought that, her being honest enough and bold enough to admit that, because you just don't see that. Racism within the LGBT community is there's a lot of it, right? There's a lot of it. And I just don't think that conversation is being had within that community. It's just not. It's not on a platform such as this. And then, on the back end of this, I'm kind of going to give my commentary on, like, the fact that a transgender man was added to a Black woman's conversation. That, I'm not saying that what she had to say or what she has to bring to the conversation is not good or good. That's not what I'm saying. But I feel that if it's a conversation that is supposed to be had among Black women, then why are we bringing trans Black women into the conversation? Because their experiences are different than mine. I have never had a penis. So I don't know what it feels like to go through that and then be within the LGBT community trying to date outside of my, I have no idea. So I just feel like that's different. That's a different experience. And we have to be able to draw the line between, unfortunately, and I know a lot of people are not going to say this, and I know this is very controversial, right? Because we're living in a time where, you cannot have true opinions about, a biological woman, a woman who was born with a vagina, and a non-biological woman, a woman who was not born with a vagina. Okay? It's like that conversation is a no-no. And I'm not going to tip on eggshells and not talk about that. And we are all entitled to our opinion. We are all entitled to how we feel and our ideology. I have no problem with that. Look, if you want to date whoever, if you want to, date the same sex, well, I don't care. That is of no concern to me. But what I will do is call out things I think, it's just not, I don't see where it's that cohesive, because I just don't see, I just don't see my experience as a biological woman and Angelica, and this is no shade, this is no anything. I just don't see our experiences being the same. They're just not. They're just not. Even though she, dates men and, and I date men, but I date straight men. And so if she's dating a man, the man that she's dating would not be straight. And right now, with what's going on within the media right now, with I can't even think of his name, but he came out recently and stated that he loves trans men or something like that. But I can't think his name. Yoba is his last name. And, right now there's a big conversation going on about, what is a woman? Like, is a woman a person who's born with a vagina, or is a woman a person who decides they want to be one? And so I get it, right? I get it. But that's not the conversation right now. And I don't want to get too much into that. And I kind of went off a little bit. So staying on course, I just thought that was very interesting how they added a transgender to what I thought was supposed to be a conversation for Black women. So, but moving on, I'm gonna show you guys what April said. And I thought I kind of connected with what she said a lot better. It was a lot stronger. I felt what she said. I really did.
I know you are happily married, but how do you think about interracial dating?
I agree with Winnie. I believe that you should date who feeds your soul
But who feeds my soul is a black man. And I'm going to tell you why. I feel like when I think about the trauma that black men have gone through, along with the trauma that a black woman has gone through, we're able to heal each other because we know each other's pain. We know our ancestors' pain. Black men need a black woman, and black women need a black man to help us be better. And because we know each other, we need each other to heal those wounds that were never really.
Okay, so as you guys all heard, that was April, and April, you guys heard. I thought, to me, I connected with that a lot more because I just have this strong connection with just the black community as a whole, like our struggles, what we've been through. And then I have that same strong connection to our men and, wanting to see our men, be right up there with the rest of the men who are running things and, who are in power and, who have power and wealth and things like that. Like, I just have that strong connection, and I just felt what she said in my soul. And I know I may come off as a little biased, and that's okay, because again, I can admit that, what she said, I can relate to. But I thought that some of the points that she made was she felt like, a black man and a black woman, just you can relate more because there are struggles and there are things that we've been through and there are things within our history that it's a soulful connection. And for those of you who kind of you're overly intellectual, you may not understand that. But for those of you who are not, and you know that there is a such thing as this energy and this soul, being soulfully connected to somebody, you get what I'm saying, or you get what April is saying. And so for me, I just felt like, I connected a lot more with what she said. But I want to kind of circle back around to them adding Angelica Ross, the transgender male to female woman. I really, really, really wish that a conversation within the LGBT community can be had on the racism that goes on there. And then also when it comes to, I feel like when it comes to black women as a whole, we are sometimes held at a extremely high responsibility to fix the issues that the LGBTQ community have with black men. I just feel like black women are held at such a high responsibility to fix that or to mend that. And the thing about it is, like, we got our own issues with our black men. Like, we can't be taking on everybody, and that's a major issue. We can't be taking on everybody's fight. Like, no. And I just don't think it's our job to take on that fight. And I honestly don't think it's a fight at all because, to be quite honest, a lot of black men feel like, and you'll see this all over social media, they feel like they are being forced to accept and to like something that they just don't like. They are being force fed. And then on the flip side of that, you have there's a conversation being had about how, there are a lot of men being shamed for liking, for being gay or trans or whatever, and that in the black community that's a problem. And to be quite honest, I would say it's not. Look, I'm a black woman, and I have been around for over 30 years, and I have always been around black people. I went to an HBCU. All my family is black. I don't have, any non-black people in my family. In my immediate family, I'll put that because I have some far off cousins that may, be with non-black people or whatever. But in my immediate family, I didn't grow up around that. And I say all of that to say I know black people. If I don't know no other group of people, I know my own people. And I know for a fact I have been around black men in my family, men who are not in my family, and they really don't be paying attention like that to gay men or trans men. It's like, do you? Like, they don't. That's not an issue. it's like, okay, well, I'm not that way. I don't, I'm not attracted to get men or trans. So keep that over there. And that's, to me, there is nothing wrong with saying that. Just like it's nothing wrong with saying, that you would rather go eat at some, restaurant rather than another one. Because maybe you just like the ambiance, or because maybe it's just a black owned restaurant. That's okay to say that. So it's okay to have a preference. And so again, I just feel that black women as a group, as a collective whole, we sometimes are held to a extremely high responsibility to fix the issues that the LGBTQ community have with, particularly the black people within the LGBTQ community have with black men. It's not our issue. I'm sorry, it's just not. And I know some people may not like that. And it does not mean that has to be something that divides us. It's just that as a black woman, and I can't speak for the entire black woman community, absolutely not. And I would never do that. But what I can say is we have a lot of issues that we have to fix with our own men. Like, we got relationship issues. We got, marriage and family and bearing children, and we got all kinds of issues that needs to be fixed as in the context of relationships with our own men. We just can't take on that. That is too heavy of a burden, and I just don't think that we should, because it's not our issue. It's not. And I almost feel like, anytime this has to be discussed, black women dating, it's almost like that those issues in situations are brought to the black women, not black men. There are panels of black men that have discussions, and I don't see anybody, trying to have a discussion about black men wanting to be with date the eyes. I don't know. But anyways, that's all I have for you guys. I love you guys. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. For those of you who would like to find me on social media, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. You can type in Nikel Younglove or even CodeBlaque, and something should pop up. Okay, I love you guys, and I'll post everything in the comment box as well. Love you guys. You guys have a good day. Peace.